What's up, Men's Physique fans, and welcome back to another video. We already have 18 athletes qualified for the 2025 Olympia after this past weekend's Kazakhstan Pro, where 4 of the top 5 were 2024 Olympia qualified athletes, all trying to get that early qualification for the 2025 Olympia. And it's safe to say it was one hell of a battle. Ryan Terry addresses why he wasn't at his best at the Olympia and breaks down his game plan on how he plans to beat Ali Bilal and Brandon Hendrickson in the next Olympia. And though we are still some time away from seeing the official competitors list for the Arnold Classic, we've gotten confirmation from some of the heavy hitters who will likely be battling it out for that top spot. It's safe to say there's a lot to catch up on here in the men's physique division, so let's sit back, relax, and enjoy this video.
Grapevine, but I ain't hearing nothing great. No, they wanna take it all from me, so I give what it takes. Whole life been a miracle, seen everything but a cape. Why would I stop now? Found everything on a journey, but another way. Look, I'm not.
Since the Olympia, there has not been a lot of shows in the United States, but this is that time frame where you'll see a lot of the international shows really pick up, and you'll even see some guys from the US traveling internationally in order to aim to get that early qualification. But coming in at 5th place at the Kazakhstan Pro, we have Philip Dji, aka Kenz. I've always been a massive fan of Kenz's physique. He's one of those guys who is just bubbly, he's conditioned, he's balanced from front to back, he's really not missing anything. That's why you'll typically see him at the top conversations in these shows. I think the number one thing that he needs to fine tune is just kind of like streamlining, right? Creating more of that men's physique look, right? And I think it's hard to kind of put a specific, hey, do this, but I think his physique really, again, is balanced, right? He has a set of legs on him. He has a good back, a good front. I think, again, amplifying that structure by bringing out a little bit more width in his lats and his shoulders would definitely help kind of streamline that look. But again, he's one of those guys who's always going to be in that conversation because he controls his variables and he's extremely balanced. So again, Philip Dji coming in at 5th place. And coming in at 4th place, we have my arch nemesis in Amit. Amit looked absolutely phenomenal. For those of you who don't know, I had the opportunity to stand next to Amit and battling out with him at the Shrew Classic at a show where he started off as an amateur to start the day, and then he turned pro, and in the same day, he ended as an Olympian athlete. Now, he wasn't able to make it to the Olympia due to visa reasons, so he is at it early and doing everything that he can to get that early qualification so he can, again, make sure that he's in the States and has enough time to get to the States and going through all of the hoops in order to get here. We all know how that could be at times, especially with some of the open bodybuilding legends who were unable to compete, but nonetheless, that's for a different story. I love the fact that Amit is back in that first call out, battling it out. He looked absolutely amazing. Now, when I take a look at this physique, there's no question I think he could add a little bit more fullness, mainly through the chest, but he definitely controlled his variables. He had a phenomenal back, and he's definitely some crazy improvements from the time that we competed together to now in such a short amount of time. So congratulations to Amit. Looks absolutely amazing. I'm rooting for him. One of the best guys that I've had the luxury of meeting in this industry, and it's just the beginning for him. Mark my words. And coming in at 3rd place, we have Anik. Anik is another one of those guys out of India who has been this close to qualifying for the Olympia, placing 2nd multiple times. He placed 3rd at the Shrew Classic, where I had an opportunity to battle it out with him. With having had the ability to see Anik with my own eyes backstage, I know that this wasn't his best. But even not at his best, he is still a top 3 athlete in a professional show. So let that sink in. It's only a matter of time for him. He has the enough density. He has the conditioning when he's 100% on. He has the balance from front to back. I think the main thing he needs to prioritize is bringing in that inside out peeled level of conditioning. And if he does that, there's no doubt in my mind, you will see Anik stepping on that Olympia stage. Yes, in 2025. And coming in at 2nd place, we have another Indian athlete, a guy who just stepped off the Olympia stage, and he looked amazing. He looked significantly improved just from a few weeks ago when he competed at the Olympia, and now almost punched his ticket again to the 2025 Mr. Olympia. The one thing about Omar was his detail through his midsection. He looked absolutely insane. His fullness in his chest was there. I think one thing he needs to continue to focus on is adding a little bit of width to his overall look. He's not the tallest of guys, so he does look narrow at times, but again, the way that he poses, the way that he does manipulate his shots does allow him to stand out on stage. And again, I think his overall polish was there. He was significantly improved. And the thing about this show, Steve DeVore was the head judge. And guys, keep in mind, Steve DeVore is one of those guys who travels internationally to judge a lot of these guys. So he gets a chance to sit back and see if they made the improvements or not. And it's safe to say they're getting rewarded based off of the improvements that they do make. So I'm really happy to see Omar right back in that conversation. No doubt in my mind, all three of the guys I just spoke about will be Olympia qualified again. And I'm very excited to see what they continue to do here in this early, I guess it's not 2025 season, but in the sense of bodybuilding, 2025 season. And coming in at first place, we have Emil Walker. And I'm gonna tell you guys right now, Emil Walker looked absolutely insane. This was his best package that he's ever brought to any stage. Recently stepping off the Olympia stage, fine-tuning, getting better, and hear me when I say this, guys, fixing his posing. He finally fixed his posing and he looked insane. He has always been one of those guys who comes in peeled, but this time the detail was there. Like the conditioning was there, plus the detail, plus the fullness, plus the correction of his posing, and overall just made for a knockout punch. When Emil walked out, I knew it was over. The one thing that really stands out about Emil was just how detailed his abs are, like how blocky they are. They're like 3D. And maybe that's just because I think a lot of people pay attention to what they don't have on other people's physique. So I've definitely always been a fan of Emil's midsection, but it's safe to say that allowed him to truly stand out on this stage. His waist was small, his bubbliness and his shoulders were there. Again, his chest was full and has always been a little bit of an issue with him. Now, even though he didn't have the best back on stage, his back was full enough to stand with Amit, with Anik, and some of the guys who really stood out from the back. So there's no doubt in my mind that Emil walked away with this show. Because why? He controlled his variables. He was a veteran on stage. He controlled his presence. And you could feel the energy, getting the crowd involved in everything. You knew his confidence was on point, and for good reason. He looked absolutely insane. Congratulations to Emil Walker going back to the Olympia. You are now officially 2025 Olympia qualified, baby. Let's go. In a recent YouTube video, Ryan Terry covered all of the things that went right and wrong and things that he's gonna double down and prioritize in order to make sure that he's the best version of himself come to 2025 Olympia, in order to beat people like Ali Bilal, Brandon Hendrickson, and Aaron Banks, who he believes were right on his tail, and he wants to create that gap.
That was my ultimate dream, was to win the Olympia. That's what I worked 21 years training for, which I didn't realise for half of that, but I knew I was training for something. When Men's Physique came out in 2012, I started working towards that, and I stepped on stage in 2013, and that is what my full focus was. Since I was an amateur, since the first day I stepped on stage, I wanted to be #1 in the world. Took a lot longer than I'd hoped, obviously over 10 years competing, but we got there in the end. And if I'm honest, it disappointed, and not because, I need to say this quick, not because of winning it and it didn't live up to its hype. It was the fact that I'd taken on so much in my life at that time that I couldn't enjoy it how I should. So I was building the gym, which like a 20,000 square foot facility. I had 40 odd contractors all plaguing my eyes out for everything, every 2 minutes wanting something from me. I was on site, on the tools, helping out as well, so that was quite hard. We had a newborn in the house. I was also trying to organise the Ryan Terry British Championships, which is our nationals. Was a real hard battle for me, mentally, physically. I've never been in those realms before. I've never really struggled mentally the way I did then. I couldn't understand why I'm having these type of panic attacks, should we say it? I'll admit it. And I just didn't know my body, didn't know like the feelings I was feeling, and it was a really rough time, a really rough place.
You know the one thing that I love about Ryan? That he's just relatable, right? Like, guys, we all have things going on in our lives, right? Whether it's family obligations, business obligations, work, social life, whatever it is, it's not easy to balance. And our current champion shows that it's possible to balance it. It's not easy, as you can tell. There was a lot of stress that he went through during his, reign of being an Olympia champion. And there was times where he doubted, and again, I think you even heard him talk about the anxiety and the panic attacks that he was facing. Like, that's not easy to manage, with the world on your shoulder, plus being the face of a specific division. But it's really cool, man, to see somebody at his level being so relatable, because I feel like we all go through some of that shit ourselves. So again, that's why I love Ryan, man. I think he's such a good champion.
The hardest part for me was leaving my family, my kids and Amy. And it sounds cheesy or corny or whatever, but it was so hard, because I only ever go away when I travel, say 2, 3, 4 days at a time. This was just over 3 weeks. And when you're low in body fat and you're tired and you're exhausted and you do feel sorry for yourself, I prep myself as well. So you don't have somebody to lean on, like as a coach or whatever, just to reassure you. You have to reassure yourself. So people around you, the support network around you and the people close to you mean a lot. They mean a lot to you all the time, but they really, are invaluable at that time. So when you haven't got that, or they're not close to you and you're just seeing them on a screen, was difficult, really difficult. I had a few tears along the way. That was obviously because of low in food.
You know, it's kind of crazy to hear Ryan, talk about, the struggles that he had, not being with his family, close to the show. And I think he also gave credit to the fact that he was able to focus more and his body changed so dramatically. But when I spoke with Ryan on the Men's Physique Radio podcast, he even said, there's a lot of business obligations that I have. There's family obligations, right? I think his wife was pregnant at the time. So he was actually thinking about retiring, So hearing him say these things, it makes me think that if Ryan ever does get dethroned, there's a good chance that's going to be the last Ryan Terry we see, So I don't know, man. It makes me kind of slow down a little bit to appreciate what he has done. And again, what he's still doing, being a good husband, a good ambassador for the sport. But again, it's kind of crazy, man. Like, who knows? Next year could be the last year we ever see Ryan Terry on stage.
I actually went there with a chest infection. We did 3 birthday parties. My son's birthday party. He's got a better social life than I have. But before I left for New York, I was in a soft play for my son's birthday. 40 odd kids running around as Spider-Man. And I got a chest infection because my immune system's low and those places are infested in infection. So I went out there, and because my immune system was so low and because my food was so low, the calories were low, this chest infection hit me hard in the US and in the UK, in New York, and I just couldn't get rid of it. And it was getting worse and worse, but I didn't want to take antibiotics. I didn't want to start taking cough medicines because it can affect prep, and I didn't want to start putting anything into my body which my body wasn't used to, especially that close to a show. So I was trying to grin and bear it, trying to go through it, but the more I ran my body down, the worse it was getting. And it got to a stage where I was like, I need to make a decision here. And it was, I can't believe it worked the way it worked, but I went and made a decision, and I had a massive refeed. I just thought, if I can boost my leptin levels, boost my immune system, go in hard on the vitamin C and just really hit it all hard in one 24-hour window and see if I can knock it out before we go to Vegas. And it actually worked. Phenomenal. And I managed to shift it as I'm getting into Vegas. So I still had the remnants of it as we got to Vegas, but I felt 100 times better. And then what better way to just kill it off completely? Being in a lot of vitamin D, a lot of sun, heat, hot, humid. Within a couple of days of walking outside, doing my cardio and stuff outside, it cleared it up.
For those of you guys who have ever prepped for a show, you guys know how easy it is to get sick towards the tail end of it because just simply how sensitive your body is. Like you said, your immune system is shot, your food's low, energy's low, your body can't fight off a lot of the bacteria and toxins that it's typically used to being able to. So I think relating to that, I think, put it this way, every time I step off the Olympia stage and come home, I'm sick. Why? Because my body is, I'm surrounded by tons of people from different countries, right? So, things that my body aren't necessarily used to when I'm meeting these people, shaking their hands, taking photos. And then I come back to my normal environment and I'm like still sensitive, and my body's still crazy sensitive, and I'm just unable to fight that off. So I'll never forget, after the 2022 Olympia, guys, everybody was sick. 3 judges had to get rushed to the hospital. It was just a madhouse. Like, everybody came back and had like the Olympia cold or whatever it was. It was nuts. But I definitely get where he's coming from with that.
Into peak week, and we're 2 or 3 days out, and I couldn't have been more depleted if I tried. Like, I was at my weight cap at 202, and I had nothing left in me, and it was the most conditioned I've ever been for any other show. And I was happy with where I was at, if I'm honest. I liked that look. I did feel like it needed filling up because I was starting to get vascular and a bit stringy, and I feel like men's physique needs to look a bit cleaner and a bit fuller. So I was looking forward to introducing a bit more carbs and filling out. That being said, I feel I went a little bit too far with it. So we were 2 or 3 days out. I started to introduce carbs, introduce more fats, and start to fill the body up. And 24 hours out, the food going in just wasn't digesting as well as I wanted, but I was still forcing it. And instead of listening to my body, and maybe this is when a coach comes into it.
For those of you who don't know, Ryan Terry coaches himself. So in those final days, he's the one that's deciding more carbs, less cardio, whatever, right? And it's kind of crazy because I feel like that's the time when a coach is so valuable. Don't get me wrong, I think a coach is valuable from the start to finish, just learning your body, making those decisions that he's currently facing then, so much easier. But I'm telling you guys, man, coaching yourself is not easy. Even coaches need coaches. And I do think that Ryan could benefit from an added eye. So Ryan, if you're looking for a coach, bro, I got you. I might feed you a little bit too many carbs today before the show, but.
So I don't want to take that away because this feels real now. The first one I said feels like an imposter syndrome. It didn't really feel real. This feels real and it feels amazing. And I'm just glad that I could get straight firsts. So all 5 judges put me first. So it was a nice straight win. And it just solidifies to everybody that I was worthy of winning the first time round. But as a competitor and as a perfectionist, knowing I wasn't at my 100% best grates on me so much, I can't tell you.
I relate to that statement so much. I qualified for the Olympia by winning the Optimum Pro. I stepped off stage, I was far from satisfied. Why? Because I did not like the package that I brought. It wasn't the look that I worked so hard to get. Even though the result was what it was, we qualified for the Olympia, as the athlete, knowing that I could be so much better, it ate at me for so long. And that's why I actually went to Indy to compete, because I was like, I know I can be better. I want that experience. So let's do it. And it's, as an athlete, man, like, it's almost better to nail your look but place second than not nail your look and place first, because that you controlled your variables and that there is just the look is there. Who knows, man? Maybe just someone showed up perfect on that day and the look that you nailed was like 99%. It doesn't matter. Everybody's 100% will always beat a lot of these other guys who show up good. But man, it kills you as an athlete to know that you're not 100% on a stage, and it's kind of crazy to think that even Ryan's 90% is clean sweeping the Olympia. It's nuts.
And that's where my head's at now, because I was always known for midsection and my back was the weaker point. Now I'm known for a strong back and my midsection is not as strong as Ali's and whatnot. And I noticed a lot of that on forums.
You know how crazy it is to hear that Ryan Terry admitting the fact that he doesn't have the best abs in men's physique right now? It's nuts. And granted, there was things that, variables that he could have controlled in order to, have him stand out a little better on stage. But guys, like, I understand he had a clean sweep at the Olympia, but Ali Bilal was this close, and Ryan is admitting it, right? He knows he's on his tail, and it's cool because Ryan brought up a weak point that was holding him back for years to now making it a strength for him. But his strength now became, I'm not gonna say a weakness, it just became, not the reason why he was, in those spots. I think that if he can control that variable, which we all knew him for, and then continue to separate through the back department, it's going to be absolutely lights out and so hard to beat him. So hard. How do you stand next to Ryan Terry at the most peeled version of himself, controlling his midsection variable with improved back and nailing the fullness? I don't see anybody able to do it. I absolutely love this video. It gave us a lot of insight on the champion's mindset going into it, how he controlled certain variables or how he didn't control certain variables. And I really think that this year was a reality check for Ryan, right? I think last year he mentioned how he just wasn't necessarily feeling like a champ. And now this year, he's feeling more confident and solidified. And based off of things that he didn't do last year, he's going to double down on doing it this year because the competition is so close. Not to mention, let's be real, a lot of the top guys weren't at this year's Olympia. So things are going to get shaken up. Will Ali play second? Maybe. Will Brandon Hendrickson win? Maybe. Like, I want you guys to think about this for a second, right? Think about how Ali Bilal improved from the Pittsburgh Pro, New York Pro, and then to the Olympia. And then I want you guys to think about if Brandon Hendrickson absolutely nails his look. And then I want you to think about if Aaron Banks nails his look. And then I want you guys to think about if Ryan Terry comes in at 100%. Dude, who wins? Not to mention Diogo. Like, who knows? What if Diogo could have won the show if he showed up what he looked like at the Arnold? put all those guys who are typically in that top 5 conversation, who do you guys have winning next year's Olympia if they're all 100%? Because truthfully, I don't know. I mean, 100% Aaron Banks typically has the highest ceiling, but then Brandon Hendrickson with time off, and if he continues to fine tune, he's always been in that top conversation. So him, right? Or again, Ryan, he's beat them both when they were both looking pretty solid, right? So who even knows, man? It's crazy that the men's physique division is moving so fast, and it's like any given day, anybody could win and beat each other because we've seen it for years. But I'm really excited to see how this year shapes out, because a lot of the guys who took time off this year are coming back with a vengeance, and a lot of the guys might even be their last years. So it's safe to say the men's physique division is going to be extremely exciting this year. The Arnold Classic is just 16 weeks out, and a lot of the guys are starting to tighten down their nuts and bolts in order to make sure they're the best version of themselves come stage time. We have Ali Bilal, who just came off of a second place finish at the Olympia, setting his sights on the Arnold Classic title. Diogo Montenegro, your 2024 Arnold Classic champion, is coming back to defend his title after dropping out of the 2024 Olympia with a lot of anticipation and hope that he was actually going to give Ryan Terry a run for his money. He is going to set his sights on retaining his title and giving all of these guys a true run for their money. And Ben Quill, coming off of a 9th place finish at this year's Olympia, making a massive jump. He has never placed at the Olympia prior to this year, goes from 16th place all the way up to 9th place. And it's safe to say the improvements that he took off to make were clearly shown on that stage. And if he can continue to improve up until that point, he has one of those looks, the men's physique look, polished look, the best poser. He has all of these variables in his control that I do believe that if the other guys just don't nail their look, or if he significantly improves in that time frame, he's going to be in that conversation. And what just might be his very last show, we have Jeremy Buendia committing to stepping on stage at the Arnold Classic. And if you've seen some of his recent updates, he is in full go mode. And the main focus since tearing his Achilles twice was to get back the size that he's gotten. He's back with his previous training partner in order to maximize each training session. And it's clear that he blew up in the last couple of months. I mean, muscle memory is a real thing, but it's nuts to see how much improvements that he made in such a short amount of time. And to me, Jeremy Buendia is the second best men's physique athlete of all time by a very, very slim margin. And if he does win the Arnold Classic, guys, there's no doubt in our minds that he is going to be the greatest of all time. He's already the most influential, but when it comes to the stage success, yes, he has won 4. But I do believe that if he takes this Arnold, he will jump Brandon Hendrickson. And last but certainly not least, we have Tor Chavez, who is committed to stepping on the Arnold Classic stage. And again, another one of those guys who is just seemingly getting better and better every single year. He went from 13th place at his first Olympia, then he went from 9th place, and now he's at 7th place, right? And when it comes to the Arnold, same thing, right? He just consistently finds himself in those top callouts, and every year he's getting closer and closer to that top spot. Vitor looks absolutely amazing at this year's Arnold Classic. He was probably the fullest guy on stage, like one of the bubbliest, roundest guys, probably the most pound for pound muscle. And I do think he needs to be careful, right? If he continues to grow at the rate that he is, he might need to slow it down and kind of pull like an Ed Von Palmero, where he ended up losing some of the muscle that he had in order to keep that streamlined physique. But man, Tor Chavez, just one of those guys who's such a wild card at every single show, because he could win every single show, or if he's slightly off, he can fall back into those, 3, 4, 5 places. But Tor Chavez will be stepping on the Arnold Classic stage and giving these guys a run for your money. Now, it's safe to say that these guys are going to be amongst your top 6 at this year's Arnold Classic. So my question is, who do you guys think is going to win the show? If you were to ask me, I do think Ali Bilal, with the time that he can make the improvements, and not to mention what he's already been shown to do, I think he's going to be the guy who just walks away with it. He looks absolutely insane. I don't think anybody's going to be able to match him from the front. I think Diogo has a great structure, but he's going to be missing the detail potentially through the midsection. I think that Ali Bilal needs to continue to add width to his back. I think that's going to be where he is going to be kind of hurt, standing next to, Ben, standing next to even Diogo, and some of these other guys who are truly, separating from the back. But then when they face the front, are they going to be able to beat Ali? I don't think so. So this is where it's going to be apples and oranges. But with what I've just seen from Ali Bilal, I do think that Ali is going to walk away with the Arnold Classic title this year, getting more momentum going into the 2025 Olympia. If you are somebody are looking to step on stage for the very first time, get nationally qualified, or earn your IFBB Pro card, or maybe even just shut it down and focus on growing into the 2025 season, I am now taking on 5 clients who are not only disciplined, detailed, but truly just simply want to maximize their fullest potential. I'm telling you guys right now, It will not be easy. I'm gonna hold you to a high standard, but I can promise you this, I will get the best out of you guys, and come stage time, you will not recognize yourselves compared to the previous packages that you brought. Again, guys, I'm looking for 5 people who are committed. All you guys gotta do is click the link below. And as always, I love you guys, I appreciate you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.